Give us the green light if you will when we're ready. Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the January 12th, 2022 meeting of the Planning Board of the Town of Dudley. In attendance this evening, we have the board clerk, Mr. Wetruba. Our chairman, Mr. Horn, is joining us via remote access. I don't know, is that the proper terminology to use? It's a big phone call that we're making here, and he's with us live. We do have, and I am the vice chairman standing in as chairman this evening, Richard Clark. We have a quorum in that we have 3 members in attendance, and we will be able to go forward with some of the business of the evening. To begin with, if we may, our agenda, first item, approval of minutes for December 8th, 2021. Has everyone had opportunity to look at or review the meetings, minutes for December 8th, 2021?
I did. Mr. Chairman, did you have any comments on them before I make a motion? Or?
I did find some issues with them, and I thought it advisable that we table action on the minutes of December 8th till our next meeting, until some of those things can be addressed.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we table the approval of the December 8th minutes to the next meeting when we have more members present.
Just a word of explanation. Votes will be by roll call this evening, as Mr. Horn is not physically with us. Mr. Horn, motion made.
I'll second it.
All right, gentlemen, motion made and seconded. All those in favor indicate. I'm sorry, Mr. Wetruba?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Horn?
Aye.
Richard Clark, aye. Motion passed. Next on our agenda is an A&R plan, Dennis Prada, Woodmere Road / West Main Street. Is Mr. Prada here this evening?
So, Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
we
Mr.
have an
Scanlon.
issue with acting on this plan tonight. We have 2 members present and 1 participating remotely. The plan came in this afternoon, so I have it that you could review this evening, but Mr. Horn, who was only present via the telephone, has not had a chance to see the plan yet.
Mm-hmm.
So we need 3 members to be able to vote on the plan. We only have 2 present. So if one of the other members were to show up, we could act on it later, but I don't know. I know one of the members is not coming this evening, and I haven't heard from the other member, so I don't know whether he's going to come or not.
All right.
So that's an issue. We could table it for a while if you like, or just table it until the next meeting.
Well, I think Mr. Prada, as Mr. Scanlon has noted, we only have 2 members physically present this evening. If you care to stay in hopes that the 3rd member does arrive, and we could get back to your A&R plan, certainly it's your option. If, on the other hand, your schedule was such that you had to be somewhere else, we do understand, and we will try to address the matter at our next meeting.
All right, good enough. I'll sit and wait for a while.
All right, thank you, sir. Next item on the agenda is a 7:15 public hearing on the Fish Road definitive plan. It is not yet 7:15, so we will hold on that.
Mm-hmm.
The following item, I think, may take more time than we have between now and 7:15. Mr. Scanlon, would you agree with that thought?
The standard business items?
No, I was thinking item number 4.
I told them probably about 7:30 we'd get to that item, so
Okay, so
they're not here yet.
well off on that one.
Yes.
Then. All right, then, if no objection, I think we proceed with the standard business, which is discussion status report on finishing construction of and acceptance of uncompleted / unaccepted subdivision streets, including, first off, Pierpont Estates.
I don't have any information on that
No.
tonight.
But the last information that we did have is that things seem to be progressing well.
Yes.
Going forward, thank you. Rocky Hill Estates, any updates there, Mr.
No
Kim?
information on that.
Nothing? Piasta Road.
Yes, I talked to Jeff Walsh today about that project. As you know, it's ready to be approved for completion by the planning board. and brought to town meeting for acceptance. As far as the planning board matter is concerned, Jeff is reviewing the as-built plan, and he has one or two concerns about that, so he's going to talk to the surveyor to get whatever information he needs on that. They have gone out and did and some of you, I think, were present to
Mr.
review the
Shinaki and I
status
were, yes.
of completion, and most of those items have been addressed, I think. So I believe the road is complete.
Mm-hmm.
It's a matter of making sure we get the proper documentation on the as-built plan. At that point, we would bring it to the board for your approval of the completion of the subdivision, release the security, and then as far as the planning board would be concerned, the subdivision is finished. It would then, go through the street acceptance process with the selectmen to bring it to town meeting.
For approval. Mhm.
The applicant has indicated that the lot at the end, there's about a 9¼ acre lot, they would like to transfer to the town for conservation purposes. That lot has the stormwater facility on it, so there would need to be permission to access that stormwater basin for maintenance purposes. But I think it's just a minor technicality. It's up to the selectmen to decide whether to accept that parcel or not. It's not really a planning board decision. And for the Conservation Commission, if they want to accept it as conservation land, then it would be so reserved. So very happy that that's moving along. I don't see any obstacles that would prevent that from getting through to town meeting and being accepted by the town as a town road.
Thank you. Mr. Horn, any questions in regards to any of the comments Mr. Scanlon's made?
No, I'm good.
Mr. Wetruba?
Nope, I'm good.
All right, speaking for myself, I look forward to seeing item C of our standard business being no longer part of our standard business. That would be a wonderful day. Next on the list is Country View Estates / or parentheses Eisenhower Drive.
No, as you know, I'd reached out to the applicant to see if he would be willing to bring it forward for acceptance, and he hasn't gotten back to me on that, so I'm assuming there'll be no action on that this year.
I know, as I recall, communication with this individual has been occasional at best. That may not be the correct word to use, but that's the one that comes to mind. Tobin Farms Estates.
So as you know, we've been very active in trying to move that project forward, and in fact, the neighborhood has voted to enter into the street betterment program. They met the threshold of 50% of the landowners' frontage agree to the betterment process. So they submitted that petition. We are going to use Jeff Walsh to review the status of completion, put together a cost estimate for completing the work, which would involve the town putting the project out to bid, so prevailing wages would be paid. So they will identify, Jeff Walsh will identify the work that needs to be done, have a cost estimate. The property owners will have the chance to back out at that point if they choose to, but I'm assuming they would go forward, in which case there would be an article on town meeting to appropriate the dollar value of that amount. Then the town would put that project out to bid, oversee the work, and upon completion of the work, the road would be brought up to town subdivision standards, in which case you'd go through the process I just mentioned for Piasta. So hopefully within a year's time, we can also take that one off the list. I should also mention that one that's not on the list because it's so old, Partridge Hill Road, the neighborhood there has also come forward with a petition to have the work done under the betterment program. So we'll be doing both of those projects at the same time.
Mr. Horn, any questions with regards to the updates, with regards to Tobin Farms updates?
None for me, thanks.
Okay, Mr. Wetruba?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to ask Bill, I'm kind of surprised, why is this not coming back to the planning board before Highway makes this determination of what needs to be done? It seems like we had talked about maybe reducing the requirement for the linear footage of sidewalk, you know, only one side of the street as opposed to
Yeah,
both
I
sides.
think
So
that's.
what is he gonna do? Is he gonna give a cost estimate on everything that needs to be done? The detention basin, everything, and then it comes to us and we see if we can whittle away at that? It seems kind of a backwards process.
Well, yeah, I think it could go either way. So there is obviously various waivers have been granted for that project, so that work.
But there are no waivers granted for phase two.
Well, so he is going to identify the work that needs to be done. And if you decide to grant a waiver, we just remove the cost of that item from the total cost of the project.
Okay. All right.
So, you know, I think it's better to have what, in front of you, what's actually necessary, and then if you decide to grant waivers for whatever reason, then you can do so, and we'll just lower the cost of the project.
All right, whatever gets it done.
Just to echo Mr. Wetruba's, those last few words, getting it done, it looks like it may be on the way to getting done. I'm not sure what we're gonna do with all the extra time we'll find in our meetings, but having that off the plate will certainly be a big step in that direction. Okay. Lions Estates?
No, you know, the work on the subdivision, you know, it got to the point where they put down the base course, and they won't be doing any more road work until the spring, I believe, or until they, you know, get to the point of wanting to finish it up, so it's.
We get an early thaw or something.
Right.
All righty, well, that concludes the standard business with the exception of item 2, inspections and actions associated with site plans. We're looking at about 3 minutes. Bill, anything Legacy Landing / Country Club Acres? I would have to recuse myself on that, so.
You can stay, there's no
action.
action required. Just
Okay.
on Country Club Acres, the assessor asked the owner if he would combine the two lots and to merge the two lots into one lot. It makes it much easier for the assessor to sign numbers and issue, you know, determine tax bills and things of that sort. So he's agreed to do that. So at the next meeting, you should have an A&R plan, which would simply combine the two lots. For SEP Solar, we had the pre-construction conference last week on that project. That work should be getting underway within the next couple of weeks. We had a good discussion about the phasing and the timing of that and the inspection process. So they would begin, you know, putting up their stormwater barriers and, you know, silt fences and that kind of thing, and provide safe access to the road with tracking pad to prevent sediment from going onto the town road. So that would be their first step, and then they'd be getting underway with the actual solar field development itself. So that should be going on over the winter and into the spring.
Oh, over the winter, okay, good. And I see JD&D 24 Oxford Ave, have we time to look at that one, or?
I don't have any information on that
Nothing
one.
on that
Yeah.
one, okay, all right. Well, rather than push our luck any further, we're only about 90 seconds or so away. We'll hold for the 7:15 time. Mr. Prada, thank you for staying with us. As you can see, nothing has changed at this end of the room. Can't go with the idea that it's 7:15 somewhere, can we? No, I suppose not.
Just jumping into the planner's plate for a minute or so. Two has been in contact with the town administrator about getting tablets for the planning board members.
Okay.
You had asked for that at the last meeting, so that's in the works. I'm assuming within the next 1 or 2 meetings, we should have that ready for you. So
Oh,
you won't have the need for these binders anymore and flipping through paper you should
So
have.
we can put lunch on the cart as opposed to the notebooks. then.
Exactly.
Oh, that sounds
So
like
hopefully that'll happen soon.
a good solution then. All right, I think if that is accurate, we are at 7:15.
Okay?
All right, at 7:15, we'll open the public meeting, public hearing on the Fish Road definitive plan.
Would you like to read the public hearing notice?
Yes, I would, if I can
That
find it here.
is
And find it would
tab
be-
D,
here we
I
go, here we
believe.
go.
Tab D.
All right, I have it here. In accordance with the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Sections 81T and 81U, the Dudley Planning Board will hold a public hearing on the Fish Road Extension definitive subdivision plan at 7:15 on Wednesday, January 12th, 2022. The meeting will take place in the Dudley Municipal Complex, Room 321A, DMC Veterans Memorial Hall, 71 West Main Street, Dudley, Massachusetts, 01571. Plan contains two proposed lots of 3.17 and 12.89 acres and an approximately 290-foot extension of Fish Road ending in a cul-de-sac. The property is located in an industrial 130 zoning district. Subdivision is intended to be used for commercial/industrial purposes, including a marijuana cultivation facility. Copies of the plan and application are on file in the Planning Board office and the Town Clerk's office, both of which are located in the Dudley Municipal Complex, 71 West Main Street, Dudley, Mass. The Planning Board will receive public input at the hearing. If you wish to comment but are unable to attend, you may submit written comments to the Planning Board office via email to planner@dudleymagov.gov before 4:30 on January 11th, 2020. Respectfully submitted, Guy Horn, Chairman. And
Chairman,
indication that the notice had been run twice in the local newspaper, December 29, 2021, and January 5th, 2022.
I would just mention at the outset that we have a three-member board here this evening,
Okay.
and 3 members is what's required to approve a definitive plan.
All right, and one of those members, of course, as we've noted, is participating remotely.
So the members that are not here can watch the recording of this meeting and be eligible to vote, provided they submit an affidavit saying that they have done so.
Okay.
They're allowed to miss 1 meeting, so we could conceivably have a 5-member board to vote, but as it stands now, we have a 3-member board. So I would guess I would ask the applicant whether he's comfortable with proceeding at this point in time with just the bare minimum number of members present, or if he would like to postpone.
All right, does someone care to speak on behalf of the applicant then?
We can move forward.
I'm sorry?
We can move forward.
You move forward?
Okay.
All right, I think the record should then note that the applicant is in agreement, and we will go forward with the 3 members.
Thank you.
All right, the gentleman has taken the podium. Would you introduce yourself, please, and go forward with your presentation, if you would.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Peter Lavoie. I work with Summit Engineering, and I am the project engineer on this project. So we have, like you said, we're proposing a cul-de-sac at the end of Fish Road. The address is 40 Fish Road. That's where the project would be. We have an overall existing lot of 16.4 acres in size. And it is in the industrial 130 district and the residential 87 district. Currently, there is 2 existing structures. There is an existing house that's located on the property, as well as an existing barn. The rest of the lot has been basically cleared. It's been used as a farm, so right now it is undeveloped. So what we're proposing to do is we're proposing a 2-lot subdivision. Lot 2, like you said, 12.89 acres, and Lot 1, which is located on the bottom of the page, is 3.17 acres. The existing road, Fish Road, would be extended 290 feet, and the road would be widened, and at the end of the road, there would be a cul-de-sac for easy turnaround for emergency vehicles and trash vehicles, plows. We are proposing a 10,000-gallon cistern in this location right here. Both lots will be serviced by private well and private septic. We have been out to the site with the Board of Health and done some witnessed testing on Lot 2. So we feel that Lot 1 will also pass the perk test. The proposed drainage will consist of 1 catch basin at the end of the cul-de-sac, which will collect the runoff generated from the roadway, and anything north of the road, that will collect it in the catch basin and then direct it into this detention pond right here. And then the detention pond will treat the runoff and mitigate the storms, and will discharge cross-country to the back of the lots, down in the back of lot 2. We are asking 5 waivers for this development. The first one would be the cross-section of the roadway, basically because the right-of-way now and the property line along the east, right here, kind of constricts us with the property line, so we are asking for a waiver on the right-of-way, and also the typical cross-section. We are asking for a waiver for pavement. Right now, the existing roadway is around 18 feet wide with no curbing, no drainage, no sidewalks. We basically want to increase the 18 to 20, and then that'll take us to the cul-de-sac where it'll open up and come in. You'll be able to come back to the 18. Also, we are asking for no sidewalks because there are no sidewalks out there. That was an up and down question to the preliminary plan, so we decided not to do the sidewalks in this location. And then no open space would be the last one. We're not proposing any open space. So those are the 5 waivers that we're asking for. We had been in front of the board or the commission with the preliminary plan. We did shorten the roadway from the preliminary. The roadway was longer. We decided to shorten it to bring it up closer. Basically, we are, by doing this cul-de-sac, we are giving the, safe turnaround access for, like I said, emergency plowing and trash. And that would be it. That's basically it.
Do you have any questions from the board? Mr. Wetruba?
I'd like to hear the public comments.
First, okay. And do we have anyone from the public who cares to speak to the matter? Would you come up, please, and identify yourself?
Eleni of 36 Fish Road. They're asking for a waiver of no sidewalks. We had the impression that a sidewalk would be put down at the West Dudley up to where the access road is in replacement of that for the safety of my children coming to and from school. And there are additional children on that road now. It's not just mine.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I could jump in right here.
Yes, Mr. Wetruba.
Just so you understand, the waiver of the sidewalk requirement is only in the cul-de-sac.
Okay.
Because I think we went, I remember us discussing this at the previous meetings, and we actually do not have the power to require them to construct any sidewalks further down the street where you wanted them. But that at that point, the applicant had stepped forward and said that they would be willing to do that. But again, we can't enforce that. We have to go on his word that he's gonna do that. So what you're hearing tonight about them asking for a waiver
Okay.
of constructing the sidewalks is only for a waiver of constructing the sidewalks in the cul-de-sac that is being constructed. Because those other sidewalks you were talking about for the safety of the kids, that actually is completely outside of our jurisdiction here tonight because it's outside of this plan.
Is that still the plan?
It is, yeah.
Okay.
By the time the selectmen actually voted on it to approve the sidewalk extension, it was like, I think the last meeting in November. So obviously, we're not gonna start now, but we are.
Excuse me, if you were to comment, I think it best if you take one of the microphones, identify yourself first so that we can have it on the record.
Yep. Jonathan Angelevich, DJT Properties. Yes, I do believe with the sidewalks, the selectmen, I believe, voted to move forward with that extension from West Dudley Road to our access road, but it wasn't voted on until sometime in November, I believe. It might have been the second selectmen meeting. Okay. So now that that's all clear, we can start construction in the spring on that extension.
Perfect, thank you.
Your
Can I ask you
question?
one more question before you leave?
Yep.
I'd like to know your opinion. Do you really care if there are sidewalks in the cul-de-sac, considering that they're not gonna come, there aren't
In the
any?
cul-de-sac, no, I want them down at the lower end of the road, where
Okay.
my children will be safe from
Right, 'cause-
all traffic from both businesses.
Because when we're making our decision later tonight to grant that waiver, it would be good to know from some of the people that live on the street. whether they-
Personally, I don't care if the sidewalk is down there or not.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Excuse me just a
Yep.
minute. Mr. Horn, you have any questions for the lady testifying?
Testify.
Testify.
No, I'm good, thank you.
A poor choice of words, perhaps. All right. I'm sorry. Mr. Mr.
I'm
Horn?
good.
You're good, okay. Mr.
I'm
Horn
good.
is
Yep,
indeed good,
thank you.
yes. Thank you. Anyone else from the public, if you would? Come on up, please. Or come on down, I guess, as they say in the game show. Again, would you please identify yourself?
Good evening. Robert St. John, live at 38 Fish Road. I share about 900 feet of border with DJT Properties at this point. So I have a vested interest in what's going on. It's in my side yard. I can see it very clearly from my bedroom and my living room. Which brings me here. I'd like to ask for an additional waiver to eliminate the streetlight that's going to be put in the cul-de-sac. Along the same lines as the 20-foot pavement, the no sidewalks, and all the other requests, there aren't any on the rest of Fish Road. The nearest streetlight is 7/10 of a mile away. It's on Route 131, across the river, through the woods, et cetera, et cetera.
We go to grandmother's house, okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
And the way it's positioned right now, it would be directly shining on my property, casting a glare, which is one of the subdivision requirements that lights do not cast a glare on neighboring property. So in a couple of ways, if it's required, you're requiring the landowner to violate the subdivision rules, which I would find incongruous. So along the same lines as there are no other streetlights on Fish Road, there's no other sidewalks, the road is quite narrow, there's not really a need for a streetlight. Plus, as been noted before, and I agree, they're trying to keep a low profile. They're trying not to invite tourists, people to look at the property, security, safety, all those reasons. Having a streetlight there just invites people to say, hey, there's something here. Right now, the one car a week that comes down there, and I can testify it's just one car a week because I live there, they turn around because they think they're in somebody's front yard because the house is right there. With a street light, it's going to say, this isn't a front yard anymore. This is a public way. So they'll stop and look around now that there'll be some construction, there'll be some other buildings. And that just lends to not having a safety condition there. That lends to people from all over the place coming to see what's going on. So for all those reasons, and probably think of a few more, I really would urge the board to put that on the waiver list as well, so that it's not an annoyance and intrusive piece of addition to the property.
Mr. Wetruba, any questions or comments?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, at this time, I would like to ask the town planner, as far as procedurally, we need the applicant to ask for that waiver again right now, correct? If we were to be of the mindset to grant it?
I would say yes, it probably should come from the
Because I remember
applicant.
this discussion, and I knew as soon as he was sitting down that he was gonna talk about the lights shining in his windows.
I like to sleep at night.
I absolutely, I know we kind of batted this around last time, and then just to make things easier, I think the applicant took that off the table and said, we'll just put the light up. But the reality is, I'm kind of in agreement with you. I like the idea of granting that waiver. That cul-de-sac is not gonna have any other houses on it. I'm gonna go out on a limb here, but I venture to guess that that existing building is probably gonna have some sort of light on the front of it that's gonna be shining on it, because that's right on that cul-de-sac. It's really close. So if you got a light out in the front of that house, it's gonna be lighting that cul-de-sac anyways. But, to your point, it won't be facing your house. It'll be
Correct.
facing directly across towards the area of the detention basin, so,
They already do have lights on the porch,
yeah.
which
And as we had already
which
talked
illuminate the
about,
cul-de-sac quite nicely right now.
this is mostly an industrial project. It just happens to have a slice of residential there.
Well, that's also way down at the bottom end, a couple of 1,000 feet away.
So I would say at this point, it's up to the applicant if they wanna
Well,
add that back on.
before we get to that, maybe we'll ask Mr. Horn if he has any thoughts that he'd like to share with us. Mr. Horn?
I think if they have some light packs on the buildings that would light up the cul-de-sac, I would be fine with that.
Do you have such? Is someone from the applicant able to speak to that?
Yeah, I mean, we have cameras, I mean.
Might be an idea for you to stay there. We might
Fine.
get back to you from time
We
to
have
time.
no problem with the waiver to waive the street light, and we can put, there's lights on the house now. So-
Okay, there was a question that Mr. Horn had. Mr. Horn, maybe you could repeat that, so that may not have been heard. If they have what, please?
Will you be installing light packs on the house and the barn to light up the cul-de-sac if there is no,
Yes,
if there is no street light?
yeah, we can.
Okay.
All right. Would there be any way to deflect the light so that we don't interrupt the gentleman's sleep?
Yeah, we'll do whatever we can do to keep them happy. It's fine.
Mr. Chairman, I'm just showing you photographs of
40
how it
feet.
is.
Yeah,
That's a live camera.
Yep,
yeah.
okay.
And
All
that-
right,
That's perfectly acceptable to me.
all right.
Even if it's
I
on a
think
timer, we'll
we're-
figure something out that works for everybody, right? It doesn't matter to
We
us.
still have the procedural question that Mr. Wetruba raised regarding how that would be done, and that we would not, as the board, be proposing a
I
waiver.
think Mr. Angelevich just indicated that he's
He's in agreement with
We would
that.
agree with, yes,
that he,
100%.
in effect, is asking for that waiver now.
All right. All right, yeah, anything else, sir?
No, that does it. Thank you very much.
for
Appreciate
your
your time
time.
and patience.
Anyone else from the public care to address the issue? Any further comments from the applicant? And the board? No? Mr. Horn?
I'm good.
Yeah,
I
good,
guess,
okay.
if I may, I would ask Peter about the comment letter we received from Jeff Walsh. What is your plan on addressing his comments?
I mean, I just looked at it this afternoon.
I know it came in late.
Right, so, but, you know, we will work on it I mean, it seemed like it was very minor. I mean, there were some things missing in the drainage report, but besides that, it just seems just clean up. And we will work on that and get it to him as soon as possible.
So I guess, how long will it take for you to?
It shouldn't take that long. There weren't that many, so. Tomorrow. Richard said tomorrow, so.
Is it your suggestion that we could move forward with this pending receipt of that?
No, it's my suggestion we get the revised plans
Get it
before
revised,
you take
okay,
action.
before we take final action.
Yes.
All righty. That being the case, anyone further comments from the applicant? No? And we put that on the agenda for the 26th?
If you'll be ready, we could take it up in 2 weeks.
All right.
I will take care of that this week.
All right, thank you, gentlemen, and thank you, members of the public. We don't see you often enough. Come again.
Oh, gotcha, okay, thank you very much.
All right, so I have it as 7:32, 33 approximately. We'll close the public hearing, Bill?
Jeff?
I will. I'll hand deliver it to him.
Okay, thanks. I'm sorry,
Going to 7:33, you're going to close the public hearing?
to continue the
To
public hearing.
continue the public hearing, to be
wanna
continued
continue it?
January 26th of 2022.
At
Continuation.
7,
7:15 again?
I think I have, yes. I think that's correct.
All right, 7:15.
Okay.
I think they've left, but I'm sure we'll get notice to them at 7:15. The applicants left, so 7:15, they may not have caught that bit, but hopefully we'll be prepared.
Actually, I think we have the Stevens Mill hearing reopening at 7:15.
All right.
So we should probably do this at 8 o'clock.
Okay, I'm thinking this might not take very long. Can we squeeze it in earlier, do you think?
Squeeze it in at 7:10.
Yeah, let's, Mr. Wetruba, what's your thought on that, if I may?
Are we just going to, we're just gonna approve it right there with the waivers we just discussed tonight?
I think so. I don't see anything at this point in time that would require much further discussion, but if you want to leave more time,
The only, well, we have two members not in attendance, so it's, might be a little premature for us to think that's the case and it's with any certainty, but I suspect we're closer than we were.
So we have,
7:10 sounds pretty good.
and then we have the Fish Road marijuana cultivation hearing at 8:15, which is many of the same principles.
Mm-hmm.
So then
Okay,
maybe
do it
8
8.
o'clock would be
So maybe
better,
8 o'clock,
we
then
just
they
go
wouldn't
right
have to-
into that, we can
right.
have everybody here.
Okay,
So continue it to 8 o'clock?
8 o'clock then,
Okay.
yeah. And will you make that known to the applicant? So that
Yes.
they- Because
Yes.
they have left. Okay. All righty. All right, that concludes that bit of business. 7:30, you thought, Bill? was
Let me
good?
ask if Janice Williams or Jean Davis are on the phone? Oh, you're here?
Oh,
I'm sorry, I
okay.
couldn't see you.
Better still.
Okay. Then I think that's the next item on the agenda.
All righty. And this is item 4 on our agenda, under new business discussion with Gene Davis and possible zoning amendment for the, to the Conservation District. I'm sorry for the tongue twister. If you'd come forward, please, take one of the microphones, and if you could sign in and identify yourself.
We have signed in.
Oh, you have? Oh, okay. Yeah, very efficient. Thank you. Ladies, the floor is yours.
Excuse me?
Good evening.
Good evening. This is a 25-year-old problem, issue, which
It
We
should
have-
never have happened.
we have no idea where we stand with this. When the district was made up, there were many parties whose land was taken, and all of that land, we're the only people that remain in it, mainly because my father, who was a dairy farmer, was too busy to be hanging out in town hall to find out what they were gonna do to his land.
All right.
He had no clue that it had been put into conservation. And Joanne Simsack is here to speak to the fact that they had put it on the market, assuming it was in 61A, but they had no clue that it was put into permanent conservation land.
And he put it on the market to be built on, to be developed,
Mhm.
to be bought by some developer. He had absolutely no intention of having it maintained as conservation land. We put 140 acres, but the farm is in APR. He left that 17 acres out so that if anyone in the family wanted to build a house, you cannot build on APR land, that 17 acres would be available. And he never believed that it was conservation land. Quite frankly, when Joanne's mother, Connie, told him, you can't sell it because it's a conservation district, I won't say exactly what he said, but it was BS. He didn't believe it. And till the day he died, he didn't believe it. So, you know, why it was done, to me, it was done illegally. It was stolen from us, it was taken from us with absolutely no reason except to take it.
Are you the owners of record?
Yes.
You are?
Yes.
And I'm sorry, discussion with Gene Davis, I'm not sure which is.
It went through probate. Alfred Ehrlich was the lawyer. I don't know if, because of his health problems, he never completed the probate. So it's still in the names of my mother and father with me as executor.
Alfred had had an accident and.
I don't know if you knew Alfred Ehrlich.
All righty. I'm sorry, which of you is Gene Davis?
I'm Gene Davis.
You're Gene, okay.
Yes.
Everybody looks the same with a mask on these days.
We're identical twins.
I'm sorry?
We are identical twins.
Oh, well, there's another reason why you all look the same, okay. So this is a matter, you say dates back 25 years or so?
Well, actually it goes back to, apparently we only found out later 1969, I believe, when it was put into conservation.
That's
But
true. It
we had
was
no clue.
on the original zoning map adopted by the town in 1969.
The original map.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All other parties that were put into conservation, their land is now out.
So this is the only remaining parcel in town that's conservation.
No, the conservation district still exists. It hasn't
Still
changed.
exists.
Well, but there are houses built on it?
There are.
There are.
There are.
But-
There are, I did,
Bill has done some research on
so
this.
Okay.
there are 4 houses that were built in that district. 2 of them are grandfathered. They were built before 1969. And then 2 houses that were built
Which
after
two are
that.
those?
That would be the one on Marsh Road that belonged to Annie Hines at the time it was put in.
Right.
And what was the other one?
I don't recall which ones, but there are 2 of the 4 were built. One was in 1977 and then the other in 1980. So I contend that they should not have been built there because it's a conservation district, and which does not allow single-family homes.
Mhm.
But somehow they were built,
Mhm.
and I don't know, why that happened, but
They are there.
as it stands now, they are protected. They've been built. The statute of limitations has expired, so they are grandfathered as well, even though they should not have been built there.
Okay. If I may, ladies, what is it that you're asking for consideration of here? What is it? Your end goal is to sell the property, is that it?
Yes, yes, and not as conservation land, because it's worthless as conservation land.
Is this subject to 61A at all?
It's in 61A
Yes, and
for
it would-
tax purposes.
Yes. And it would be subject to 61A.
Which requires payment of back taxes when
Right.
it's pulled out, but it doesn't prohibit development.
No, it can still change hands, exchange hands. Mr. Latrobe, any questions? Mr. Horn, you're a long-tenured member of the planning board. Perhaps you have some thoughts in regards to this matter.
I just don't know, personally, how we would handle, taking this piece of property out of the conservation district. I mean, if it's possible, I don't know how we'd go about doing it. Is it rezoning, Bill, or is it?
Well, the way I look at it is this, it's in the conservation district, which does not permit single-family homes. And I think the applicants have a legitimate gripe that zoning cannot be used to prohibit development on property without paying just compensation to the owners. So I think the town is in a bit of a pickle here in that it should really address the matter somehow. So I see there are 2 ways to do this. One is to amend the conservation district regulations itself to allow single-family homes,
Nope.
in which case the board could require large lot sizes that would be consistent with the conservation purpose of the district. So, for example, you could require 3, 4, or 5 acres for a single-family home if you wanted to. The other way to go is what Guy mentioned, and that is to rezone the property. The largest lot district that the town has is Res 87, which is about a 2-acre minimum lot size. If that were to happen, the property could be subdivided into 7 house lots if you would actually rezone it out of conservation into Res 87. Or you could do something else in terms of creating another district in town, another Res, like 130 district. You have an industrial 130, which would be a 3-acre minimum lot size. So you have a number of options to consider, and I don't know what the right course is. That's why I asked the owners to come tonight to discuss the matter with you.
So that would be potentially 7 lots,
Mr. Chairman,
depending on the buildability in terms of the lots.
Correct.
Yes,
if it-
Mr. Wetruba.
we've talked about this before, similar situations, and I think in the past, we've often suggested that the people who are aggrieved by this by that situation, actually, that they bring forward at town meeting an article to rezone the property.
no.
Why can't they do this themselves, I guess?
They could.
That's what I would think, because as a board member representing the town, I mean, this is just a legal mess that I see. The idea of us changing conservation districts to allow houses to be built.
Well, how did the town have a right to change it into a conservation district and make it worthless and useless? Where did that right
I don't
come
know,
from?
but I mean, it happens all the time. I remember when Tobin Farms was being built, that whole area was Res 15. And I remember that the town was going through a major rezoning, and I think they went to Res 43 over there. And I remember the then owner of that property coming before the planning board and basically saying that Tobin Farms, that subdivision was happening now, that he was basically in a position where he felt that the town had a gun to his head and he had to develop it now if he wanted to get as many lots as he could out of it, because they were rezoning it. The point being, he had to change his plans because the town rezoned it. The town does things for the betterment of the town as a whole that don't always agree with your plans.
Well, we have no plans, because the usefulness of the land has been taken away from us.
When have you previously come before the planning board regarding this problem?
I don't remember the dates. It's, this is
No,
a
it-
25-year, at one point, we were going to take it to before a town meeting, but who was,
I don't know, Jim Whitney was,
Moderator.
moderator then, and told us, oh, don't do
well,
it.
it
There was
wasn't Jim
some-
Whitney, it was the head of the planning board.
Yeah, the head of the planning
Oh,
board.
don't do it now. We've decided it's not a good idea to do it now.
So it-
No, we're not town, we don't hang around and know what town politics.
So
are.
it never went before the town meeting then?
So it did not.
Well, I got up and made a big speech about it, and then we were told, oh, wait, don't do it. So
When
then I
you were
had to
told
get up
on the
and,
town meeting floor, you were told during the town meeting?
yeah. So then I had to get up and make another speech, please don't vote on it. So, what the politics of that were, who knows?
Yeah, and I can't speak to what previous chairs of boards may have told you, but I'm just thinking now from
Well, we're
my
like,
point of view, I think if you wanted to move forward with rezoning that so that you could put houses there, then I think you should spearhead that effort on your own.
But I think the reason I asked them to come is to see if there's common ground that we can find here in terms of a density that would make sense for that property.
How many houses do you wanna build on
Excuse me,
that?
could I ask your name, please? I didn't get your
right
name.
there, Steve.
My eyes, I'm
okay.
almost blind in both
Yeah,
eyes, so.
I'm Steve Watroba.
Wautroba.
How many houses do you want to build on this parcel?
We never envisioned any more than 5. There is some wetland there, and some of the drainage isn't good.
How much frontage is there? I remember I looked at this
There's
plan.
A lot.
1,000 feet on one section, then there's a lot, then there's another 330 feet on another section.
It fronts on 3 roads, on Marsh Road, Hayden Pond Road, and the Oxford Road.
So
Did you look at the map, Steve, that I had here?
What did you say? Res 87 would give them how many lots?
7.
7 lots, yeah.
Potentially, provided they could get wells and septics on each of the lots, but at 2 acres, there's a good chance they could find enough good soils to do that.
There is water there, yeah.
And the other way to do it, you said, would be to set a minimum acreage to allow single-family homes in conservation land, provided that the minimum lot size was X amount of acres?
Right, whatever you felt was appropriate. If you said 5 acres, for example, then on the 16-acre tract, they could get 3
Oof,
homes.
Boy, that's a sticky wicket there, because you see, we can't just single out your lot. That
Well,
would be,
they've already
that would be
sing-
all conservation property in Dudley would then be opened up to development.
If they
Where-
have, yeah, correct.
Where is the other conservation property?
If you look at the conservation map for the town of Dudley,
There is-
it's in green, there's a
And-
huge amount.
And how much of that land was taken, and how much of it was donated? Our land was taken. I believe most of the other land that's conservation land now was given to the town of Dudley
What
or
about that
donated.
100 and something acres you talked about, though?
What 100?
When you first,
Oh, the farm that's on Healy Road, 140 acres is an APR, which is essentially conservation land. It's under an agricultural protection.
well, who put that in there?
We did.
So
And
how
then
was
the
that
town
taken?
took the land that we were planning on building on. Isn't 140 acres enough?
I understand, but you asked if it was taken,
It was taken, yeah, it was taken from us,
but the other acreage you gave.
yes.
Okay.
Okay, I
Yeah.
just want to make clear that that wasn't taken from you.
Okay,
No,
if I may,
no.
the Healy Road property, I don't think is an issue right now. I don't think we're getting.
No,
No, but it's,
track on that.
we-
I understand you're
we
adding that for
donated it to the
background.
land as
You're adding it
cons-
for
yes.
background, I understand, but it's not the issue.
Well, she asked
we
the
had.
question, how much of that land that I'm talking about was donated?
Okay,
They
that is
donated
the
some of
case.
that
Yeah.
land.
But I
And how much of all of the conservation was taken, except for our land?
I have no idea.
I don't think any of it was.
I'm not sure how that terminology applies here in terms of the word taken. Taken, to me, sounds like someone had a gun to their head or
Yeah,
something,
well,
something was done that was somewhat on the shady side. I don't know that anyone would have done that.
There was a
intentionally.
the little house on Marsh Road belonged to a World War I widow. And that was taken, and then,
It was put into, even the house was in the
the house
conservation
and
district.
10 acres.
And then,
Somehow it was taken out,
well,
it was bought.
Chet Calissa bought it, and so the house was taken out, and for part of the acreage was taken out too.
But it was bought at
So how was that done?
We have another person here present who, I don't know if you could help us get through this or explain this. There's a lot of history here.
Yeah.
And again, I'm personally a little uncomfortable with the term taken. I'm not quite sure what the
I
context
guess what
is.
the consideration was, when the gentleman went to sell his land, he became aware that it was no longer developable land. It had been put into conservation situation. You have to understand that when people don't understand process, that if you wanted to make a zoning change here, and I lived in Florida and owned property, nobody sends me a letter. The planning board has a hearing and a zoning change occurs, but people don't get certified letters. Same thing on conservation. Apparently, a hearing must have been held. This man didn't understand he should have been at a hearing, that would have been his only voice. And he wakes up one day and realizes land I had that was 16 acres that I could have put houses on for my family at some point in time, or would have been valuable and suitable for development, is no more.
However, we have.
It is in conservation, and now you're not able to build a house on it.
However, we have continued to pay taxes for 61A land.
And this all would have happened
It
approximately
happened,
1969?
you're going back a number of years when boards did not operate the way we're operating right now. That you have minutes of your meeting, you have records, they go into the town clerk, we can play track down and find information. When you try to go back to find out how hearings were held, how things were done, it's not as easy to find the back records of how this all occurred. But all he knew was he was putting it on the market, and one day he wakes up and he had land that was valuable to land that is not valuable. They have tried for a number of years, approached different people. When they talked to Mr. Whitney, they did not talk to him as moderator, they talked to him when he was the town manager. So it was a different position that he was in. So they've had direction with misdirection, with a combination. People didn't assist you to find answers the way we all assist the public today. Today, people come in and you help them understand what's going to happen, what results are. That didn't happen years ago. So they're sitting there with land that they felt the intent was to be developable land, because the intent of land that was meant to be given for conservation was done. And they have not figured out how to rectify it. Now, we know couple years back, that Mr. Collins had an issue that was a zoning change on Dudley Oxford Road, and the family woke up one day and realized they were in industrial or whatever it was, and they couldn't build houses. and they went through a process and got it changed back because the intent was for that land to go to his heirs to be able to build houses on. So sometimes things occur because people didn't understand process. They've looked for direction, have gotten none, and here they sit with 16 acres of land that should be worth something, surrounded by little parcels where there have been pop-ups of things that have occurred, of buildable situations, and they sit on an undeveloped piece of land. So they're looking for what is their alternative. To have it be, the 61A is irrelevant. They simply pay rollback taxes on it, and that's an issue. They've paid taxes all along. But if you look at what it's assessed at, it's assessed as though it's nothing. It's a piece of nothingness.
So I understand the situation. You want to be able to sell it so people could build houses on it. Joanne, you want to sell it for them.
No. They need to want to have a piece of land that has the value it had, whether they choose to build a house or they choose it to sell it to someone who will pay the market value for that land because it has value, not what it has now. There are people who have shown interest to them, not to build houses, but as it sits right now, it's not developable in any fashion. So its value is impacted its highest and best use. They want it back to being what its highest and best use is. That's what they're looking for.
When you say there's interest in it not to build houses, what is the interest in it?
They're not developers. I'm not gonna reveal, they've had people approach them on buying the land who are not developers. But you can't say to them, I want $200,000 for my land, when you're sitting there with a piece of land that's assessed at, I don't know, $2,000. It's not real easy to convince me you have a valuable piece
But
of
there's
property.
no reason not to believe that that's going to be the end game.
Well, the end game is going to be they want it to have its highest and best use. And this is not its highest and best use. Whether it's houses, whether it's condominium, I don't care what it is. This is not its highest and best use that owner thought his land would have, not by his doing, by what happened around him that he wasn't an active participant in.
Because he was working 14-hour days as a farmer, as we grew up, and as most of us did.
So, just to recap then, this has never gone before town meeting.
No.
No,
There's never been on the warrant, never been an article.
it was on a warrant, but
I'm not sure where the jurisdiction of this lies, but I know we have in Massachusetts a land court. Is this something that falls within their purview?
No.
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 No?
They could take legal action against the town to force the town to pay them for the value of that property. But they haven't chosen that route. They've
Right.
chosen instead to go
Right.
a zoning route.
But then the town would make the argument that the value of the property is,
$2,000.
Now, the town may have some liability if someone decides to track the history back from the records of how things were done and people who represented the town and in their positions, how they did them. You sit on a board now where you know you have legal ramifications from you when you don't follow due process. That may very well have been the case. They're not looking to go that route. It may turn up to be part of why we are where we are. I don't know. They're looking to try and put this where it should be. Why do they sit as one parcel in an area where no other exists to make this make sense? Almost like a spot zoning change when you look at
well,
it.
I want to clarify, I'm not against helping you, okay? Because I think Joanne's basically telling me that the wind is, let's sue the town, and let's sue the board. So I reach
No,
loud
that's
and
not what
clear.
I said. I'm saying when you push it back on people to do legal recourse, when we could solve it by trying to understand how we got there.
So here's
and
what
get
my,
input to
here's what
get
my
what-
mindset is. My mindset is this: the idea of changing the rules for all conservation land in Dudley to allow single-family homes in order to rectify this situation, it's a non-starter for me personally. I can't speak to all the board members, but for me, that's a non-starter, which gives us the other option. The other option is rezoning that parcel to Res 87, which would give you, what did you say, 7?
Potentially seven.
Potentially seven,
Attention.
yeah.
I don't know what the wetland situation is, how that's all gonna work out, that's not my, that's the engineer's problem. But that would give you some relief, correct?
Yes.
Now, as far as the process of if we were to entertain that and move forward with that, wouldn't it still be essentially they bring it before town meeting and we sponsor it? Isn't that how we usually do it?
It could go either way. The landowners can submit a landowner petition to rezone their property. That's one option. Or the planning board could sponsor the article, which would be another option.
Now, this property abuts Audubon?
Yes.
Yes.
Do they have any interest in it?
One never
That
knows.
would maintain it as conservation, if you would. And if they had sufficient financial resources that they could compensate you for it, it would
why
alleviate
would-
some of your financial issues, I suspect.
But why would they if it's zoned as it is now?
I don't know why they would. Why they might if they thought that it was to be developed and no longer considered conservation land. I don't know what, how they act in terms of what motivates them and
I'm
whether they
sure
have the resources in order to maybe indicate interest in that, but.
Mr. Chairman, to your point, then we still would need to help them create the situation where it could be developed.
That they would.
So that they would.
Convey this land to the Audubon Society.
Right.
I-
In other words, at the higher
Right,
value.
but I think you're at least consistent in terms of what is indicated here as conservation, conveying it to something like the Audubon Society, the use of the property or the use of the land is consistent with
Yeah, I
what
mean,
it originally,
it'd be
or
great if just-
has been since 1969, anyway.
Just sponsoring the article would cause the Audubon Society to come forward and suddenly pony up the money that you would want for the property. That would be great. That would be the perfect situation, but there's no guarantee of that.
Well, you could do that short of going to the town meeting and sponsoring any article. That could have been done at any time.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
The purpose of them being here is not to try and create a marketing situation for the town to help them figure out how to sell their property. They're looking to turn the clock back to give them the use of their land that they had before this all occurred.
Has the same effect.
But no, it isn't. You're talking marketing, you're talking specific, all they're looking is to turn the clock back from making it non-usable to being usable as it was before all of this occurred. And they feel that it was not consistent for the area as to how this happened. They're looking for your help, your input. They're not looking for you to help them solve their problem, to sell it if they wanted to sell it or build a house on it. They're looking to get themselves back to square one.
What would it be rolled back to? If this dates back to 1969, what would it have been zoned as?
Well, that's the question. The bottom line is zoning didn't come about till 1969.
Right.
The question is not so much about the zoning, but how did it get into a conservation situation?
And how was the rest of that
Okay,
area zoned? What's the zoning for the rest of
have-
that Oxford Road?
Excuse me if I may, do any records exist? Is there any way of tracking this back? Is anything existent in terms of the town clerk or?
No.
There's nothing hidden away in the basement anywhere where we can?
Not that we know.
What good, Mr. Chairman, though, what
Yes.
good would that do us at this date? Because if we move forward with any plan, we'd have to abide by the current zoning. That's why I can't say, oh, let's create Res 120 and say it's Res 120, because we don't have a Res 120,
No.
correct?
No.
Correct.
Right, so.
May I ask a
Talking Res
question?
87. What's
What,
that?
may I ask a question? How is the rest of that area of the Oxford Road zoned? What's the zoning there?
Res 43 or Res 87?
Well, and if that land hadn't been taken to be put in conservation, it would have been zoned the same way, wouldn't it? And is that the same on Hayden Pond Road? Hayden Pond Road and Marsh
We could
Road?
make that assumption, but that's all it would be, is an assumption.
And on Hayden Pond Road, is it the same? I would say so, that, yeah. Well, I don't know.
I don't know, is it 87?
So surrounding the property, to the east, it's Res 87. To the south, it's Res 43. To the west, it's Res 43. And the north is both Res 43 and Res 87. So it would seem to me that the predominant nature of that part of town is large lot residential, which would indicate a Res 87, which is the town's largest lot size.
And what is 43? How many acres is 43?
1 acre.
1 acre, and 87 is?
It's about 2 acres,
Oh,
a little less.
okay.
I don't think anyone expects you to solve the problem tonight. They're bringing it to light that maybe you can assist and see what alternatives exist that makes a meeting of the minds. And if you go out and you look at the land and get a look at it, maybe you'll understand why they have some concern that someone just decided that it should be conservation. And if zoning is the issue, that's what they have to do is go back and rezone, then so be it. But they're looking for the expertise of this board to also look at it and maybe give some direction on what's the right process. Because if it has to go to a town meeting, the process better get started soon for them.
I will say that one section of the original conservation area was paid for by the town to the owners.
The town did buy a parcel next to you.
Yeah, from the Romers, yeah.
So getting back to Ms. Simsak's point, the recommendation that I would give you is, I would lean towards rezoning that to Res 87. Because as far as the planning board taking action to reallocate the use table for conservation land to allow single-family houses, that would affect all conservation land in the entire town. That would create a much bigger potential problem for the town, in my opinion. And I don't think I'm the only board member who feels that way.
No.
I'd like to hear what Guy thinks at this point.
Mr. Horn, you've been called out.
Yes, excuse me. So my opinion would be, if it's possible to grant them some relief, I would agree that rezone their portion of the land, which is basically surrounded by 4 single-family homes, as Bill pointed out, to Res 87. And if that's possible, I think, the planning board should support that article at a town meeting for them.
So that's where we stand. That's our recommendation at this point.
And I would think at this point, it would be your option to go forward with that if you choose to do so. But it looks like everything goes back to the town meeting.
And could we take it for, are you saying that the planning board would support that? Is that what
From what I am hearing, it sounds like 2 members of the planning board are inclined to do such.
What, you don't wanna?
I personally would think that as property owners, you certainly have a right to present at town meetings, so I would, if you choose to do so, that would be yours to do. I don't know that I find it necessary that the planning board support that or sponsor that. And we have 2 members who are not with us this evening, so.
That's true. We could.
It's a mishmash in terms of what would come out of, the 3 of us are not necessarily on the same page. I would not oppose it.
Could we maybe revisit this in February when we have a full board here and hear 2 more members' opinions? Because it might be, you might end up finding that we may have enough members that would support the idea of supporting an article to rezone your parcel as Res 87.
When would the meeting be?
I suggest February only because I know in the January meeting, we've got.
Right, it's the 26th of the month, the end of the month, and we have
We
a
got 2
pretty
public
heavy agenda
hearings
for
that
that
night.
meeting already
Yeah.
in
Is
place.
there, because I normally live overseas, and I'm here only because the border to the country where I live is closed. It's Morocco.
February 9th would be our first meeting in
Oh,
February.
yeah,
would be
that would be
fine.
good.
Yeah.
That would be good, that would be,
Yeah.
okay. And if you have any other, further information or any documentation that you can find or anything that, you can connect the dots on some of this, certainly would be appreciated. It sounds like, from what I understand, it sounds like you've probably exhausted all of those avenues at this point and nothing
Well,
has
I think
surfaced.
it's a
but-
pretty clear picture what happened here, that this happened back in the, well, I don't wanna say the
Dark
good old
ages,
days.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
old days.
Old days, it's appropriate term there, yes.
I think it would be appreciated if you would be able to get a look at the land and see there was frontage on 3 streets. The
Yeah.
intent would not have been to have this sit as undevelopable land, but I think that is great that you've helped them with, understand the process they need to go to
I
move
can't
this
speak for the whole
forward.
board, Joanne, but you know, I'm a lifelong resident of Dudley. I know the property. of Dudley. I know that area, so.
And I realize you can't make a decision in 5 minutes, so I think that gives them enough opportunity, maybe to put together a little bit more information to give you to look at a meeting, maybe you look at the lot, and then give direction on what is a reasonable process.
That land was originally a wood lot, and we grew up, our house was heated with wood. And unfortunately, most of the people who cut wood over there are now gone. But there are a few people left who cut wood with my father and discussed the land, and if we got statements from them, because most of them were surprised too, that it's in conservation, because, you know, Elliot always talked about eventually selling it for development. So if we got statements like that from people, would that be?
But probably not necessary, because the reality is that once it goes to town meeting, it's gonna be an article, it's gonna be voted
Right.
on, and you're gonna have, you know, the typical small percentage of people that actually show up. So that's when you have your neighbors and the other people in the area, you ask them to turn out. You know, come to the meetings they don't normally come to, and vote in favor of helping your family. That's what you do.
I think what I was hoping for is if you were able to turn up some documentation in terms of something in terms of meeting minutes, agendas, or some
Was no- no.
Mr. Chairman, with all due
letters
respect,
or
I don't think
exchange
that's
of.
gonna help us.
Yeah, well,
I hate to see.
Mr. Wetruba, I believe it might help put this in somewhat in context, just
You
a bit.
mean
but
meetings?
It does not change the issue.
Mr. Chairman, let me share one more thing with you. We used to live in the shoebox system in the town hall of Dudley. The building inspector's records were kept in shoeboxes in the old town hall, which was located on Schofield Ave.
Right,
The filings were there in the shoeboxes. Over time, who knows where they landed? And that's the way I know the planning board minutes were kept in a ledger. I don't know how other boards did them, but we literally had a book where everything was recorded on an ongoing thing, just like your diary. And said it was Dear Diary, it was the town history of all the meetings that were held. But we've looked, and I've searched, and I'm pretty good at digging up records, but I'll keep trying to find anything before then, but I have not been able to find that. And
Absent that, anything ever occur that made its way into the Webster Times? Back during that period in 1969 when zoning was under
I
consideration?
don't know that they published hearings in that day. A lot of stuff with town government came about over the years, just like open minutes, open meetings. Records were different as to whether you had to do publications.
I wouldn't, I'm not, I have no reason to believe it would be there, but I have no reason to believe that it might not be there either, even as a news article.
Yeah, well, I'll give it a shot, but again, a lot of things, that was not a board that was a big deal in the town. That was not one of your biggie boards. That would not be like a
Well, let
selectmen's
me assure you,
meeting.
it's still not a big deal.
Well, it is now on what you do with land. Land and usage, all of that stuff is a big deal. But we'll try and come up with more, but I have searched through a lot of it, and I kind of know. Aura has been great for keeping minutes. I've had her go back and find permits for me from 10 years ago because she keeps good records, but that wasn't the case.
Mention was made of Attorney Ehrlich. I know he has passed away, but the practice is still in town, or in Webster rather, I believe. Anything record that they may have kept there or had there?
Well, a lot of times records get destroyed. I know the banks will only keep a lot of stuff for 7 to 10 years and then it's gone.
That would
You're
just
out
be
of luck.
ownership records anyways. We only dealt with the.
But I think you've helped them on what they need. I think we need to move forward at this point. It's an answer that at least gives them some direction, says you're open to hearing what needs to get done next. And I think it's on them to try and put together a few more things so your board can review a little bit of information before you get here.
So
If
do we
that's-
need to,
We don't
make a
have-
motion to put them on the agenda, or can we just invite them back for February 9th? How do you wanna do that?
No need to make a motion. We
All
can
right.
just do that by
So,
consensus.
We're just gonna invite you back on February 9th. Hopefully, all the board members will be in attendance and we can talk about moving forward, okay?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
What is the date of town meetings? I don't,
Town meeting, I believe, is the
May.
third Monday of May,
Yeah.
third Monday of May.
something like that. It's a Monday, late in May,
Okay.
put it that way.
Third Monday in May would be the 16th.
Don't be up in the Alps or anything like that during that.
Well, I might be on the Sahara Desert. I don't know.
Well,
Thank you.
Jan,
Yeah.
your purse. Your purse.
Yep.
oh, okay. Getting back on to the agenda items that we have. Planner's plate, we were there at that, I believe, weren't we, Bill? And did you
So
any-
I have one or two other things. The Mason Road Complete Streets project.
Right.
The design is underway.
Mhm.
Ty and Bond is designing the sidewalk in conformance with the town water main project, which is going forward in that area. We intend, the state contract has not been executed yet, but it's in the works. We understand that there'll be a notice to proceed in April. So I believe that would coincide, the design will be done by then, and it will coincide with the finishing the pavement work for the water main project, so we can do both concurrently.
When do we get to see that?
See what? The design?
Sidewalk design, since that was
We intend to
kind of
do
our
a
big-
meeting at 25% design. So when that happens, there'll be a public meeting on it.
Okay.
I believe at the selectmen's meeting, they mentioned looking for public input in May, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
That would have been at their last meeting this past Monday.
Because I'm curious to see how that whole new
Right.
pathway that they were talking about making that wide enough that possibly even vehicles could use it or something.
Yeah.
Emergency vehicles,
Yeah.
So
that's
I
interesting.
don't know exactly when, but there will be an opportunity for public comment on that before it gets too far in the design stage.
Mhm. And anything else? Planners plate,
The other
Bill?
one is the MassWorks award for designing the sewer and sidewalk improvements along Mill Street and Outlock
Right.
Place and in that area. So that contract is underway as well.
Oh, good.
So that, we don't actually have a signed contract yet for that, but it's in the works. That will take about a year for the design.
All right. Everything takes time. All right, and is that cover the planner's plate, or do we
It
have
does.
other issues?
Nope.
No, it doesn't. Mr. Horn, we're gonna let you lead off with comments from the planning board.
I'm good.
You certainly are, sir. Thank you. Mr. Latrobe.
Just one more thought. We talked about this whole betterment process that Tobin Farms has decided to move forward with. But we were talking about the other subdivisions, the other roads in town, not necessarily even subdivisions, but other roads. When the selectmen had that meeting, we talked, they invited in a whole bunch of different people. And then there was some talk of maybe a committee being formed. I had voiced the opinion that I would be for that, and I would be even willing to be a member of that committee. You had a chance to approach the selectman or the town administrator and see what they thought.
If I may interject a minute, I think I also volunteered to be part of that committee, should that take place.
Right, so what's going on?
So, two things. To answer your question first, the selectmen have decided not to create that committee.
Okay.
They didn't want to create another committee. They felt that existing capacity was available to move that process along. So the two subdivisions that I mentioned have submitted petitions, and they'll be acted on appropriately by having Graves Engineering do, the cost estimates.
Two subdivisions?
Partridge Hill and Tobin Farm?
Oh, Partridge Hill?
Yeah.
Yes. Did I mention that?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I did. Partridge Hill
I
also.
think you may have, but that's okay. We've had,
Partridge Hill also came in as the other
Really?
one.
They have over 50%?
They do. You know, about 2/3 of that road is already public. It's the end that is still private. So those owners on the private portion of the road have come in and asked to participate in the betterment process.
That's much older, so I'm not sure what does that need? Is that just the road needs to be brought up to?
It's in pretty tough shape.
Yeah.
So it could need a significant amount of work.
Okay.
What we'll do is we'll pull out the approved subdivision plan and compare that to the condition of the road and figure out what needs to be done to bring it up to, you know, conformance. And the other point is that one of the residents of Misty Meadows, which is another unfinished subdivision, asked if he could come before the planning board to talk about it. And I'm not sure whether there's anything new to be said there, but if you wanted to invite him in, I would be happy to invite him and the neighborhood.
They have, Misty Meadows has, as far as the portion of that street that actually is in Dudley, there's only like 5 houses there, I think, right?
Something like that, yeah.
So whatever needed to be done there to bring that up, they'd have to spread the cost out amongst 5.
Just a few owners, right?
Just a few owners. It would probably be so high that I think they would have a hard time getting. I never want to be the one to say that we don't want to allow somebody to come in and talk to the board. But sometimes we just don't have the answers.
Right.
Or it's a problem we just can't solve.
And maybe one of our functions, Mr. Wetruba, is on occasion at least to listen anyway. And to your point.
But they're just not gonna like what we have to say.
Well, they may or may not, but in any
Oh,
event, I think we do, I think we are obligated.
Did you see the selectmen's meeting?
The last one?
No, did you see the selectmen's meeting where they talked about
Yes.
the program?
Yeah.
And the people, did you see the people from Misty Meadows who came in and spoke? Are those the same people?
I suspect it probably would be.
Yes.
You know, we do have in our agenda, for example, comments from the audience. I think we are beholden to the public, and I think we should at least give them the opportunity to speak. What they say may not be different from what you might have heard at that meeting, and then again, maybe it will be. We don't know, but we won't know until we hear from them directly, and I think it behooves us to allow them at least the opportunity.
Well, if we're gonna do that, I strongly recommend that any board members watch that selectmen's meeting and hear what they had to say so that you are prepared with answers.
All right, well done. Meeting date would have been what, the 20th? Would that have been the 20th selectmen's meeting, the December 20th meeting? I'm trying to remember where the calendar would have had us.
No, it wasn't that one, it was earlier. It was
Earlier than that?
Yeah,
the
it was in
20th.
November, I think, we
In
had
November, that
meeting.
far back?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, we've gone another year, so I'm losing track pretty quickly here.
I will invite them in for a discussion.
Let's see now, we are pretty much booked as far as the 26th of this month. So the first option would be
February 9th?
February 9th. How is that filling in now? Well, we're gonna have,
I think it would be fine.
okay.
Yep, it's a good
All
time.
right. I do have a question and a comment. I saw something today regarding what is called Shared Streets and Spaces Program. It apparently is state-funded. As I read this, it has awarded a total of $33 million to 183 Massachusetts municipalities and 4 transit authorities to implement 310 projects. Projects range cost from $50,000 to $500,000. It speaks of things like bike paths, and there is mention in there of sidewalks again. And I think, at least in my own thought, is that this town is in a deficiency when it comes to sidewalks. I see people walking in the road every day. You know, unless you've got Kevlar and some kind of fluorescent clothing and a flashing light, such as the one that we don't want on Fish Road, walking on the roads in Dudley, I think, is taking your life in your hands, and I'm glad I'm not selling you life insurance. But more sidewalks, however we can come after that or get those, I think is definitely to the benefit of the population, which is growing, and more people every day. The lady mentioned more kids up there on Fish Road alone, and I don't know that anybody anticipated that. So if there's any possibility of any of that money being available, if you
I can
take a
look into
at
that program, yeah.
Yep. And if it's money that we can get without having the taxpayers spend theirs, I'm sure that the selectmen and taxpayers will be much happier with that. Mr. Horn, did you have any concluding remarks? I keep feeling you're being left out, because I'm looking at this black device sitting on a table, and it seems more than remote. So I don't want you to feel that we've abandoned you entirely.
No, I'm here, and I'm listening to you, and I think your thoughts are right on with the sidewalks. So if there's a possibility to get more, I was very happy to hear that we did get the 400,000 the full 400,000 for the Mason Road project. Hopefully that can put us in good shape on Mason Road.
The one other point, Bill, if I may, we've got that in the bank, or coming at least. We may want to start looking at what other projects we had indicated on there. One that comes back to mind is the intersection Ramshorn Road and Dudley Oxford Road. There was a very serious accident there not that long ago.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it was a pickup truck. It took out the utility pole and a couple of stop signs, and I
Where
guess
was that again?
the Ramshorn Road and Dudley Oxford Road intersection. I understand that the gentleman was impaired, and that may have complicated the situation, but should
Yeah, that
any
would
of
probably be our next one, because that was actually originally number one on our list of
Right.
priorities, but we
Okay.
moved it down because the engineering was already in place for Mason Road.
Right,
So
right.
it made it, we would
Okay.
be able to meet that timeline. But
Right.
now that we've got more time, so the idea would be what we would say, approach Ty and Bond and say, hey, you guys wanna do the engineering for that pro bono for us? We'll give you the work if we get the
Right,
grant,
sure.
right?
The other project, which is a possibility, the regional school district has voted to become a member of the Safe Routes to Schools program.
Aha.
And that has money for construction of sidewalks. And they weren't eligible in the last round because they had just joined the program, but they will be eligible for the spring round. So the thought is we could go for a Safe Routes to School grant for work around the high school, middle school, along Dudley Oxford Road going into Dudley Hill. So that's another, I think it's a fairly strong possibility that we could apply under that program as well.
It would be, I've noticed we have signs up now identifying the Dudley Hill Historic District. And unfortunately, one of the first things you see after you've seen one of those signs is those two ugly orange barriers in front of the cemetery telling you not to use the sidewalk.
Oh, yeah.
If there's anything we could do to connect some of the dots to get that moving forward, or things moving in that
Right.
direction, it
That was, I
certainly
think, a
would
high
be
priority in our
an enhancement.
plan.
I notice here we have approval, consultants, vouchers, payment of bills. There are only two of us here to sign.
If Guy would so vote, I would sign on his behalf. And I'll just put my initials after his signature.
Okay. Mr. Horn, did you hear that?
That's fine for me.
Okay. All righty. I don't know that we've set the next meeting date, January 26th. And the next item on the agenda was the approval of and vouchers and payment of bills. Do we need discussion, any further discussion in regards to those? I see that there are Graves, and then one for Gatehouse or Worcester Telegram.
You might just mention them for the audience,
Okay.
what they are.
All right, the first item is $223.30. It concerns the JD&D Construction Administration. The bill, it comes to us from Graves Engineering for work done on that project, and that is on Oxford Ave. We discussed that a bit earlier in the meeting. The second is for $1,413, again, to Graves Engineering for peer review of PFAS plant site plan. That is part and parcel of this whole PFAS situation that the town is dealing with, and I believe that was for the road work around the well.
It's the site plan review for the
Site plan.
PFAS plant.
Okay. And then the third is Graves Engineering, again, peer review of the Stevens Mill site plan, $2,267.10. That again is the ongoing project with regards to development of the Stevens Mill project and moving that forward. And I think we are getting much closer to that, hopefully. The fourth one is, again, Graves Engineering for Country Club Acres Construction Administration, $1,415.05. And that I assume is regards to their review of the project to date.
Yes.
The last is for Gatehouse, in parentheses, Worcester Telegram. This is an ad, I believe, placed in regards to the Stephen Mill public hearing for $182. Anybody, any questions in regards to any of those? Mr. Horn, Mr. Wetruba?
No question.
Okay. I did omit item number 5 above, comments from the audience. We have no audience, so I assume there will be none. So anyway, I believe, need a motion to approve payment of those vouchers and bills. And what is the board's pleasure? Mr. Holmes?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve the vouchers that you just listed off.
Okay. We have a motion
Second?
and a second. All right, all those in favor, and Mr. Wetruba?
Aye.
Mr. Horn?
Aye.
And Richard Clark, aye. So it's unanimous from the three of us, anyway. The town notices, the only other thing, I don't know if it's already happened. No, it's later this week. I recall at the selectmen's meeting, mention made that there will be, the Board of Health is sponsoring a vaccination clinic. The 15th, is it, Bill?
Do you recall, too?
Yes, the Saturday, the 15th.
15th, and that's for first shot, second shot, and booster. So if wherever you are in that sequence, come on down, and they had, I believe, mention of 60 that had signed up already.
I'm all loaded up, can't help you there.
All right, well, I
Good.
wasn't addressing you specifically, Mr. Wetruba, but for the audience out there, anybody who might be listening.
Just letting you know why I won't be there.
Wanted to come in, and obviously, the goal is to have as many vaccinated as possible. Were there any other town notices that we should take note of?
No.
No, okay. Correspondence?
No.
None. Okay.
Birthday parties?
We should have a party. We're getting close to the end of this pandemic, hopefully, and that calls for, if nothing, at least one heck of a party. Anyone care to make a motion that we adjourn?
We should pass the vouchers around for signatures.
Oh, yes, we will do that. I have to dig them out. We need to sign before we adjourn then, Bill? Probably.
No, you could adjourn and then sign them.
All right.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn.
Mr. Horn, please, a second.
I second it.
All right.
Here's one sec.
All those in favor, Mr. Wetruba?
Aye.
Mr. Horn?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Clark, aye. All those approved. So we are adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time.
Thank you. Good night.